Hi everyone, welcome to episode 112 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I speak to Lach Galbraith from Aussie rockers Ocean Alley. We will be talking about their latest album, Low Altitude Living. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to legendary music producer Danny Sabre about working with some of the biggest names in music, including Michael Hutchence, the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Madonna, and U2.
And then I ended up going to Ireland to finish it, because this is like the weekend. Like I got there on a Friday, and like Monday, that's it, no more $1 Million Hotel. So I had to deliver a mix of the track we did with Satellite of Love. And I was in the studio in Dublin. There was only like really 3 studios at the time. There was Windmill Lane, and then U2 had their studio. And then there was this place called The Works. And it was just this funky little place and, sort of hole in the wall place. And I remember Bono tried to get us Windmill Lane. And there was a band, I don't know who they were. They had it locked out. And Bono asked if they could just give us 2 days over the weekend. They told him no. I don't know how you tell Bono to fuck off. Imagine the favor they could have. So they said no. So, okay, we're in the works. And at the time, everything was still on 2-inch tape. So I had literally every piece of rental gear in Ireland in that room. And I was just trying to get the shit to play back. I mean, it was a mess, because the room couldn't really handle the technically what we had going on. So I remember Bono walked in it was Saturday at about 5 p.m, and I still couldn't even hear anything. And I'm like, do you go home? I go, let me get a handle on this. And he's like, okay, but we gotta get this done by Monday morning. If it means I went, no, don't worry, man, I got you. Just go home. So he left, and we got the shit rolling. And I don't know, somehow magically, everything started coming together. So I went in the next day. It sounded pretty good. And anyways, by about 2 or 3 o'clock, Bono shows up, and he's literally got a sleeping bag under his arm, because he's like, if we have to stay all fucking night, we're staying all night. That's it. We've got to get this mixed up. And he walks in and he goes, how's it going? I go, well, actually pretty good. I want to play you something. So I'd always run my mixes off the CD. So I took them in the lounge. There was this shitty little lounge with this shitty little, boom box. And I played him the mix that I had just printed. And he looked at me. Let me hear that again. And I played it to him again. And he goes, let me tell you something. Some people in this world make your life really difficult, because some people make it easy. He goes, Danny, thanks for making my life easy. Let's go get drunk.
So check it out. And if you like the podcast, please subscribe for free and share it with your friends. If you want up-to-date music news, album reviews and interviews, then check out our main website at xsnoize.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Search for the tag at XS Noize Music. Here's XS Noize writer Daniel Lynch with a taste of what's been on the website this week.
With Christmas coming up, gig tickets might just be the perfect present for the music fan in your life. There's tour news on the website from Rancid, who will play a run of UK and European dates next summer. Ben Hard will headline Alexandra Palace Park in July, Skinny Living play Belfast in May, and Orbital will tour their Optical Delusion shows in March and April. All the dates and ticket details are in our gigs section. In the review section, Ian Byrne gives 8 out of 10 to the Flaming Lips 20th anniversary reissue of Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. The CD issue has 100 tracks across 6 discs. Michael Barron has been listening to the double album that isn't a double album from NoFX. It's the follow-up to Single Album from 2021 and is 10 short tracks. Michael says the album could have been a punk rock masterpiece, but one track lets everything down. 7 out of 10. Read the full reviews at xsnoize.com.
Australian rock outfit Ocean Alley recently released their brilliant 4th album, Low Altitude Living. In this interview, keyboard player and vocalist Lach Galbraith talks about how the band got together, the new album, touring this year, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Lach Galbraith. So hi Lach, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. Have you been following the World Cup, about Australia in the World Cup?
Well, look, I glance at the score every now and then. I'm not necessarily an avid sports follower. I'm not really into the whole competitive side. I don't mind, watching the game from time to time. So if you're trying to extract any wisdom from me, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to put my cards on the table for this one.
Well, no problem. I like to go back to the start with my guests. Can you remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. I can tell you about the first big concert I went to, which really got me inspired to perform for music. When I was much younger, my dad brought me to. Oh no, it wasn't my dad. It was actually a friend. He had his birthday, and his parents bought him ticket to see U2 in Sydney, Australia. I had always been playing piano since I was younger than that. But that was the first time which I went to a real energetic, huge arena show. I remember standing in the crowd next to my friend and just being so taken aback by the immense scale of it all, the interaction of the crowd, and just the presence of Bono and the rest of the gang on stage. That was the first time I think I truly feel like that this is like one of the coolest jobs in the world. Yeah.
Nice one. That U2 is actually my favorite band. What tour was it? Do you remember?
Oh, I wouldn't even know. I must have been like 12 or 14 years old. That's a long time ago.
Well, yeah, they don't get down to Australia very much,
That's right.
Yeah, but they always put on an amazing show.
Yeah.
So when and where did Ocean Alley get together?
Well, we kind of, before we even were a band, we kind of just knew each other from hanging out in the surf. Where we grew up on the northern beaches in Sydney, it's pretty surfy, cruisy culture, especially when you grow up there and you go through your adolescence into your teens and into your higher teens. We would see each other down at the beach all the time. Friends of friends. We all lived really close to each other. And just through the whole, all of us getting out when this weather's hot and the sun's shining, we would just kind of, catch each other in other friends groups. And then as that went down the track, we all started to get a little bit closer to one another, and we could all play musical instruments, but I don't think anybody knew that I could play or he could play or any one of the other ones could play. And so then it came up in one conversation and we're like, oh, well, I didn't know you could play guitar, I didn't know you could play drums or organ or whatever that kind of stuff. And from then we go, hey, well, we're not doing anything better with our summer. We're just hanging around and being shit kids at the beach. We may as well play some songs which we would call our favorites at the time. And from then we would meet in the bass player's parents' shed and maybe like twice a week just to get up and get together and hang out. We would just play music. And from that stemmed opportunities years down the track. When we first started playing together, I'll be honest, we were just shite. We were just a bunch of kids mucking around, and we kind of we grew our knowledge of music and performing together as friends first, more so as a band. We never had the goal to set out and be an amazing band. We just liked doing it because it was fun. It was hanging out, and occasionally it got us a free ticket into birthday parties. So you could just go in and go, hey, you need a band? Yeah, we'll play. Just give us a couple of cases of beer and we'll call it even.
Well, you obviously started touring around Australia. What's that like? The country's so massive. What's it like for a touring band, being in a van, going around that country? What was that experience like?
Well, we did it when we had most of us. Well, we had all finished high school, and we all had jobs. Some full-time, some part-time, some casual. It's a much different experience as to traveling, doing tours in, let's say, the UK or Europe or America, where you can get a bus and you can drive around and do all that kind of stuff. And there's lots of great infrastructure for that kind of thing. But for us, one, when we were so young, and two, you don't really drive when you're doing tours in Australia. It's all flying. So you fly in and out. But at that stage, when we were so young, all we could afford was just to get into one of the blokes' cars, pack a trailer full of gear, and off we went. We slogged it hard for a couple of years, I must say. We found ourselves sleeping in car parks under the car, to get out of the rain, or in bushes just so we didn't have to pay for because we couldn't even afford one motel room. We couldn't even afford $80 a night. We had nothing. Everything that we earned at work, we would just use to pay for fuel or food or get us to the gigs. Like it was, we just did it because it was just really fun, and we were always on the road. We were always moving around, meeting new people, seeing Australia. It was a great time for us to really grow as friends and as a band, because we know what it's like to, do it from ground level. And we have a great appreciation for, bands that are up and coming and need support. Because we can see that in ourselves, Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems to be getting more harder for bands to tour now. It seems to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because it's there's a lot more content out there. I don't want to say that the market is saturated with music, but it kind of is in a way. There's so much accessibility to arts, not just music, to everything, visual arts and people who can dance. The whole thing with TikTok and all that kind of stuff. It does. Sometimes I must imagine for some up and coming bands, you feel like a drop of red in a sea of blue. There's a lot out there. So the way that we learned to just manage that is just get your face out there, be in presence, show yourself physically, be there on stage and meet fans and shake their hands and introduce yourselves. I feel like if I was to impart any wisdom to up and coming bands, I'd say that's the strongest thing. That's the strongest thing to get your name to the next level, is to be there for your fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the album. Ocean Alley have released your highly anticipated fourth album, Low Altitude Living, in October. It's excellent. I'm really enjoying it. Love it. How does it feel that it's now out in the world?
Oh, it's been a tough 2 years, or almost 3 years now, for everybody during the COVID crisis. We used that opportunity when we couldn't be on the road and performing some of our previous works to just knuckle down and write. We thought there's no better time to be able to do that other than when we have a forced break from being on the road. So that Low Altitude Living was in conception for over 2 years. We would meet up at places once every couple of months, spend a whole week and just go over ideas. And so now that it's out in the world, it feels like we've taken the longest time and had the most thoughtful process. One, it's a relief, but two, I do kind of miss the experience of being together and writing. That's always a lot of fun. The whole creative section of that is great. So I could speak for myself, but probably for the other boys in the band, that we can't wait to jump back into the studio again and start making some new stuff. We love that process. But yeah, to answer your question, it's the surrealness has fallen off now with that. Oh my God, it's our fourth album out there. We're enjoying the feedback, and we're loving that we get to come up and play these all this new material for our fans for the upcoming live shows.
Well, I also love the album title, Low Altitude Living. What's the meaning behind that? Where does it come from?
Our lead guitarist, Angus, he's fantastic at what he does. He can be a man of few words sometimes, but when he says things, they really stick. And he came up with that concept, and he goes, we were back and forthing about what are we going to call it, and we couldn't quite settle on something. Out of the blue, he just goes, Low Altitude Living. And we go, what the fuck's that? He goes, Low Altitude Living. Think about it. And so we sat down and we haven't thought, and we go, okay, yeah, we can see how this is going. And we started, individually thinking about and going over, like, how does that feel? What does that mean? And then we kind of understood that it's not just, it's kind of like a statement and as to what we were doing in the past 2 years through that all that COVID stuff, but also just as us in general as people. We live low altitude. We live by the ocean, but also it's kind of like it has that sense of relaxation. Like we don't take each other too seriously. It's more like a comment on our way of life.
Your previous album, Lonely Diamond, was very successful. It debuted at #1 on the ARIA vinyl chart. Because of that, did you feel pressure going in to write and record Low Altitude Living?
Yeah, I think there's always pressure, and not just for us, but for every artist out there that has to follow up works that are considered really well done by them. There's always going to be an amount of pressure whenever you release new material. But I think it's about differentiating if it's good pressure or if it's bad pressure. Because if there wasn't any at all, if there was no pressure, you wouldn't get anything done. There needs to be a bit of force behind, why am I doing this? How can I be better? How can we better ourselves and, keep our fans happy? So yeah, the more that we go along this path of releasing music that people are, enjoying, the harder it can be to find new ways to make our fans pleased with us. But also at the same time, you got to keep it true. You got to keep it real for, the OG fans who have been there since day dot. Some of them like to hear the old stuff. A lot of people like to hear new stuff. But there's a balance I think you have to find with managing the pressure of putting out new stuff. You have to kind of channel it, in the right direction. You got to find the right mediums, the right outcomes. If you don't, it can be overwhelming. But we're all pretty close mates, and we keep an eye on each other, and we can chat to each other freely. So if it feels overwhelming, we just get together and we focus and we do as much as we can. And what else can you really do except just do what you can? Do your best always.
Well, there's so many brilliant songs on the album, so let's talk about some of them. The album kicks off with the track Home. It's a great way to start the album. What can you tell me about that?
That was actually one of our favorite ones of writing and recording. The frontman, Baden, he came up with most of the ideas for that. He showed it to us, the bass player and I, when we were living together 2 years ago in Byron, and it was a completely different song back then. It wasn't structured the way it was. It was missing all the elements which you would hear now and today. It sat with us because of the way that he wrote the lyrics, and they really, it made us feel connected. We could understand what he was talking about. And from then, since him showing us doing that the first time, I had always been in my mind as this is going to be one of my favorite tracks to be put on the album. I feel like a lot of people could connect with it, and I love showing it to people, and I love people, hearing great feedback about it, because it's the track that I really believe in as well, out of all of them on the album.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to open the album. My favorite song on the album is Touch Back Down. I really, really enjoyed it. It really just jumped out at me. What's the genesis about that track?
It's just about kind of, not taking yourself too seriously. You can be up in the air for as long as you want, and not, don't give yourself such a heavy task of worrying about the day-to-day life. It's all right to be free sometimes, It's all right to be a bit goofy and act up and fuck around. It's about fun. About fun and finding the brighter things in life, the things that aren't so serious.
Yeah, it's very uplifting. It really cheers me up when I hear it.
Good to hear.
Which song on the album was the most challenging to get right?
Each song had different challenges, that's for sure. I can say one for me was one of the ones on the end of the album called West Coast. We were kind of messing around with this idea of having this like old school California 90s West Coast synthesizer, with this kind of like pingy swirls and all this portamento slide. And I was trying to emulate, all that stuff you hear with Ice Cube tracks and Tupac and Biggie. And I've got this little, this keyboard called the Sequential Prophet 6. It's a fantastic instrument, really powerful, but the sound of the synthesizers in that couldn't quite match what I was trying to get across. So for me, I was just on tutorials online, how do I get this to sound like that? I tried so many different ways and I couldn't nail it. And then we went into the studio maybe a few weeks or maybe a month before we had got the final mastering. And we were just going over all the tracks, making sure everything was where it needs to be. I just went, I'm not happy with how that sounds with that synth line. And then I noticed in the corner of the studio, there's this dusty old micro Korg. I went, you know what? I'm just going to plug this in, play the same thing, set the settings to how I think they should be, and then first go, bang, got the exact sound that I wanted. And that was a huge just breakthrough for me. I just went, fuck yeah, I fucking did it. I got the sound that I wanted. So for me, that was one of the challenges, because I spent so long trying to figure out how do I get it the way I wanted to. And then the answer was lying, 1 minute to midnight. So I was pretty chuffed about that.
What song on the album do you feel most connected to? Would it maybe be that one?
Yeah, that's a tricky one as well. I going back to what you said, I probably feel the most connected to Home, just because I feel like it resonates with me more than most of the other songs do. But if I could pick a close second, I would probably say Lapwing, actually.
Well, that just segues right into my next question, because it's very cinematic. It finishes the album. It's a beautiful track. It's 6 minutes long. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's we wanted to have one of those tracks in there, which we just went, you know what, bugger the time limit, bugger to what a radio edit needs to be. We just want to make a track that takes people on a journey, and that's the one that does that for me. You can put that on, turn it down low, and just be by yourself, close your eyes and have a listen. That would be my close second for one of the tracks that I feel most connected to. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a great way to finish the album. I love albums where the final track is really long.
Yeah.
There's been
I'm a bit the same, because then it kind of if an album takes you on a journey, from start to finish, it's just like storytelling. It's like watching a movie. There's got to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah, we wanted to show that this time around. We wanted it to start, take you somewhere, and then wrap it all up nicely in the end, and have a kind of a sense of narrative, even without a very a literal story behind it. So yeah, that was important for us this time around.
So when you're sequencing the album, are you guys thinking about like a vinyl, like side A and side B?
Yeah, we do, definitely. But for this time especially, I was very conscious of the decision to make it feel like it could, people could listen to it and carry their own ideas and meanings and personal feelings through the album. And of course, the division of A and B, even the physical act of flipping a vinyl kind of in your brain makes you go, oh, we're up to the next chapter now. This is the next side of it. So I think, yeah, we wanted it to feel like that, it was almost like a page in a book that you could turn. Yeah.
Well, Ocean Alley played 83 shows across Australia, the UK, Ireland, New Zealand, USA, Canada, and Europe this year. That's an incredible tour. What part of the world did you enjoy playing in the most, apart from your own country, obviously?
To be honest, I wasn't even going to say that. I think this year, in 2022, we probably, and I can only speak for myself, but I feel like I had the best time in the UK hanging out with you guys. We just had the shows were at another level. We had a solid fan base. We had new people that were coming through. It felt like a really good tour, and there were parts which were difficult. There always is on tour, but the progression from when we first started touring in the UK to where we are now, and especially from those last run of shows, I feel like that made the biggest difference. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing the last UK tour.
Is there any mad rock and roll stories from the tour that you can actually talk about?
There's definitely lots that we can't talk about. I wonder if what's PG-13? Well, yeah, there was one of the techies, we call them techies, the technical crew that, they come in and they set up the stage. One of them contracted COVID. And so we kind of banished him up to the back of the bus in this dark little, nook, and just said, you can't come out until it's time to set up and time to pack up, and you're staying up there until then. It was quite funny. It worked. None of us got sick, but he kind of got a couple of the other techies sick as well. I wish I could remember. No, look, to be honest, I think a lot of the nasty stories probably happened when we were a bit younger and first started touring different countries, late nights and stupid behavior. But we If I may say so myself, we're a little more civilized these days.
A bit more sensible and mature.
Yeah, sometimes, but there always calls times to, cut loose. Yeah, depends on the time.
I was looking on Spotify, and your track "Confidence" from your second album is your most streamed song. Why do you think it's resonated with so many people?
Well, definitely something that helped from it was when we won the Triple J Hottest 100, which is, an Australian democratic voting system at the end of each year that sums up, what was the public's favorite song back in the day. That definitely gave us a big kind of boost with that and the popularity of what that song was at the time. I think because it's a bit of a unique song from our catalogue. It's got a bit of funk, soul, it's tongue in cheek. It's when you break it down, it's quite a simple song. And, and one of the Beatles, I'm pretty sure, I don't know who the fuck it was, but one of them said something like, the simplest song is the best or something. Don't quote me on that. Could be completely wrong, but it's something that that's something that I believed in. The most beautiful things in the world, I feel like, can be the most simplest. And maybe that's why people really love it. But also I think it's got a bit of pizzazz. It's energetic, it gets people moving. And when we play it live, people really, they love to hear it. They love to go mental. And Baden sometimes holds the mic out and does, gets the crowd to sing some back, and it's fun and it's interactive, and it's a bit of it's a party song. You can't not dance to a party song.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Apart from your new record, if you were to recommend one of Ocean Alley's albums to someone who had never heard the band before, what album would you tell them to start with?
I reckon I'd probably show them Chiaroscuro. I think a lot of that was a bit of a kind of a pinnacle in a lot of ideas for us. We had released stuff prior to that, obviously, a couple of EPs, but that was like, for me at least, it felt like it was the culmination of a lot of great energies and ideas that we had been working on for a time, and that kind of hit that kind of pinnacle, that crest. So yeah, and then I would say, well, if you like all that stuff, maybe go back and listen to some of the earlier stuff. But I would recommend that one first.
If you could go back and relive one musical moment from your career, what would it be?
Maybe playing at Splendor in the Grass. Can't remember what year it was, but it was one of our the first biggest shows that we've ever played. I think we played to almost 40,000 people in the amphitheater. That was a huge moment for us.
I like to ask my guests the following questions. For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings the best memories back for you?
Do you mean our album or any album?
Any album.
My dad used to play Dave Matthews bands a lot when I was younger. Every Sunday morning when he'd clean the house and I'd be sleeping in, he would blast it. So that brings back nostalgia to me. Any Dave Matthews music.
Out of all the music in your collection, which artist or band do you have the most albums by?
Ooh. I know some of the other boys are avid listeners of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. The bass player is a super collector. He loves listening to it. And so does our tour manager. So probably that. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Yeah, I think they released about 5 albums this year.
Yeah, it's huge. I don't know how they do it. Seriously, they just sit and write and record. It is fucking impressive. I give it to them.
Yeah. Which song or album is your guilty pleasure?
You know what? Let's say Bee Gees. I haven't had a guilty pleasure in a while, but yeah, I'd say the Bee Gees. The best of, no specific album.
Everyone, it's either the Bee Gees or ABBA, most people say. But
I'd say Bee Gees over ABBA. I was never a big ABBA fan, but I respect the music, but definitely Bee Gees. It's just the ballad writing, the melodies, the musicality, it all works for me.
Yeah, they're amazing, especially the earlier stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So what music have you been enjoying this year? The year's about to come to an end. Is there anything that sticks out you've heard this year and you thought, that's good?
I revisited a band that I used to listen to a little while ago, a band called Coco Roco. I think they're based in New York. It's a bunch of guys, and I think there's a couple of girls in there, and they are just like, it's a big group, it's a big band. They're kind of like jazzy, soul, really nice, easy listening. I put them on all the time if I'm just like hanging around people and just want some lovely background music or cooking. It's beautiful, subtle music. Not a lot of lyrics, mostly instrumental, but I feel like they tell the story just through the music itself.
You must check them out.
Coco Roco.
Coco Roco.
Get behind it.
Will do, definitely. Last one. So what does 2023 have in store for Ocean Alley?
I'll take it back first. Last year we had just finished getting through all of the Lonely Diamond tour, which was postponed for COVID. And so now we're stepping into the realm of low altitude living. So we've got a couple of we've got a national tour in Australia. First up, I believe, at the end of the year and start of the year, the Falls Festival runs. Then we've got in New Zealand. Then we've got, our Oz tour, back to the States, back to the UK, back to Europe. It's all going to happen, but it'll be a bit busy. But we like a little bit of busy, keeps us motivated, keeps us moving. But just bigger and better things, man. Bigger shows, probably some more writing, get some more material down. But just keep growing. We don't want to stop. We always love the idea of moving forward. We're pretty we can be pretty fidgety if we feel like we're not making any progress. So as long as the shows are bigger, there's fans coming and watching us, and we have time to write and record, then that's what the year's got in store.
Nice one. Well, hopefully you'll come to Ireland or Belfast or Northern Ireland, the river.
We were in Dublin last time, actually. We were over in the that part of the world. So I think we need to get out a little bit more and expand.
Yeah, you need to get to the north. Absolutely.
The north. All right. Well, you bring the crowd and we'll bring the music.
Yeah. I'll see what I can do. Well, that's me done, Lach. Thanks very much for taking the time to do this here. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on your show, and I wish you guys all the best. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, not a problem. Love the album, so look forward to what's coming next.
Cheers, mate.
All right, take it easy, mate.
Thanks, mate. All the best, and might chat to you soon. Might see you in Belfast.
Yeah, hope so. Fingers crossed.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye.